So, welcome to YouTube channel. My name is Shubham, and today we are going to discuss about the interview question that has been asked to one of our student, that is GradX Academy student. He has nearly 3 years of experience, and he applied for the company called Deloitte. So let's start discussing the question which Deloitte asked him for 3+ years experience. Okay, so the first question in the question bank is, how do you convert a lookup relationship to master data relationship? Are there any dependencies on data access, ownership, or sharing? So first of all, lookup relationship is we can say that loosely coupled relationship, and master detail relationship is a tightly coupled relationship. To convert lookup relationship to master detail, first we need to ensure that all child records have values in the lookup field, because of master detail cannot have null values. The lookup field must also not be used in the sharing rules, validation rules, or be referenced in the rollup summaries. Once these conditions are met, Salesforce allow conversion. After conversion, the child record inherits ownership and sharing settings automatically, and cascade delete becomes enabled. As we all know that in master detail, cascade delete functionality is by default present. Okay, so this is how you should answer this question. Now the next question is, write a SOQL query to fetch all accounts that do not have any contact associated with them. So actually, I have written the query. If you can see on the screen, select ID name from account where ID not in. We have written one child query to fetch all the contacts, right, which do not have associated account. Okay, so here the main thing is we use not in operator, right, which we are going to compare with the account IDs. Okay, now the third question that we have is, what is a wrapper class in the Apex, and in which real-time scenario are they required? So basically, wrapper class are customs Apex class that combines multiple data types like field from the different object or non-database variable. In single structure, they are commonly used in the Lightning component, Visual Force pages, complex UI scenarios where standard objects alone are not satisfied. Next question is, explain the difference between flows, or different types of flows available in the Salesforce. So let's understand the flows one by one. There are 5 types of flows. First is record trigger flow. The flow runs when record is created, updated, or deleted. Then we have a screen flow. Screen flow is often called as interview, where the user will interact with the flow, and depending on the user interaction, we are automating something. Third is auto launch flow. It runs on the background. It is asynchronous flow. Basically, all the means auto launch flow runs asynchronously at background. Then we have schedule flow. Schedule flow run at specific time, frequency, or date. Then we have platform event flow. Platform event flow runs on the event message. There are multiple events message. On the event message occurrence, automatically the flow will execute, right? So these are the different types of flows that are available. Next is, can the requirement of counting contacts on account be achieved using flow instead of trigger? If yes, explain how. So basically, the answer is yes, we can achieve the functionality using the flow. A record trigger flow on contact can be used to do that. Whenever contact is created or updated or deleted, the flow can get related count of contacts using get records, update the account field with the count, This works well for the simple logic, but for the complex or high volume scenarios, the triggers are preferred, right? In the bulk updation, right, might be trigger will perform better. Okay. Next is, what are the best practices to be followed while creating the profiles in the Salesforce? So best practices are the best practice is to keep profile minimal. Use the profile mainly for the login accesses and object accesses, and manage the permissions using the permission set. Means we should keep profile minimal and add on the access to user, right, using the permission sets. This improves the scalability, security, and ease of maintenance. The next question is, explain the decorators in the LWC. The decorators in LWC provides the metadata to properties and method. There are three types of decorator. First is API decorator, which will make property public. The second is track decorator, which is reactive, right? Which will make component property reactive. Then we have a wire decorator. Wire decorator connects the data from Salesforce services. They help manage reactivity and component communication. Wire decorator basically used to connect the Apex class method to the rendering or to the LWC component. Next is, how do you use Lightning Web Component in the Experience Builder? LWC can be exposed to Experience Builder using the targets configuration in the meta XML files. Once exposed, they can be dragged and dropped on the pages like home page, record page, and custom pages for the partners or customers. This is how we can use Lightning component directly inside the Experience Builder. Next is, when you should prefer the flow over trigger. When you should use a trigger over the flow, right? Means what it means, it is simply the comparison in between flows and trigger. When to use which. So to answer this question, we can say that we use flows when logic is declarative, business users need visibility, no complex processing is required. When to use triggers, when we have to write down the complex logic, when we have to write down the large data volumes, right? Means when we have an organization that have large data volumes, and when the automation is based on that large data, when we wanted to control the performance, right, and performance and controls are critical, right, in that scenario also the triggers can be used. Next is, write a uh, trigger to count the number of contact related to account and store it in the custom field on account. So this is a trigger that I have written, right? You can see it, right? This trigger will help us to means this trigger will run after insert and delete on the contact, and update the account basically. The next question is question number 11. What are the Apex triggers and Apex best practices in Salesforce? So there are few best practices that we must not forget. First is, always bulkify the code. Avoid using SOQL and DML inside the loops. Use collection variables. Write test classes. Handle the exceptions properly. And most important is, you must write one trigger per object. So these are the best practices of Apex as well as triggers. Next is, how can flow invoked in the Lightning Web Component from Apex, means how we can call in the Apex as well as Lightning Web Component, right? So for example, if I wanted to use LWC, flow can be invoked by lightning dash flow tag. And if we wanted to invoke in the Apex logic, then flow.interview.flow API name and dot start. So this is a function that we are going to use. Okay. The next question is about the wire decorator. In the wire decorator, can we use any other properties apart from the data or error? So yes, we can use the other properties also, not just a data and error. What properties we can use? We can use loading to indirectly using the conditions. Next is we can use multiple parameters for dynamic binding. The wire services also supports the reactive parameters. The next question is explain the data model for developing a B2B portal using the Experience Cloud. The answer of this question is it contains the accounts as a organization, contact as a user. User must be linked to the contact, roles, permission sets, and sharing sets for the access. So this is the data model that we have for developing a B2B portal using the Experience Cloud. Next is what is the difference in between imperative Apex calls and wire decorator? The wire is reactive and catchable. If we wanted to use wire decorator, right, we cannot use it on the click, right? It will automatically rendered, means when data it using the wire decorator data auto refreshed. Imperative calls are used when the data must be fetched conditionally, such as on the button click and all. In the imperative call, we do not make the method catchable. Next is what are the governor limits? How do you handle them in the Salesforce development? So governor limits are nothing but the limits which Salesforce as a multi-tenant architect, right, kept on the one or government limit restrict the resources usage like SOQL query, DML operation, CPO time. They are handled using the bulkification, efficient queries, and asynchronous processing. And then it might have one more cross question. What is meant by bulkification? Explain me with example. So bulkification means writing a code that handles multiple record at once. For example, processing the list of contacts instead of single contacts in a trigger. Means we must write everything bulkified for the better performance. The next is what is the difference between sharing and without sharing in Apex? So this is very important question, might be in every interview. This question is asked, what is difference between with sharing and without sharing? With sharing means it enforces the record level security. Without sharing means it ignores sharing rules. By default, all the Apex classes are without sharing. Next is when should Lightning Data Services be used instead of Apex? So LDS should be used for simple CRUD operation in the LWC component as it improves the performance and the catching mechanism. Apex is preferred for the complex logic or cross-object processing. If we wanted to get or create the record in relation, then we must use Apex. If we wanted to do simple CRUD operations, then we must use the the LDS, Lightning Data Services. Okay. Next is how do you handle errors in Apex and Lightning Web Component? So error handling is very important. In Apex, we use the try catch blocks for the handling exception. We use exception handling concept in Apex using the try catch block. But in LWC, uh, we handle the error using dot catch in the imperative calls and error in the wire decorator. In context of wire decorator, we use error metadata, right? And in context of let's say imperative call, we use catch. Explain the difference between future queuable, batch, and schedule epics. This is a classic question, right? So actually, what is the difference between future epics, queuable epics, batch epics, and schedule epics? Future epics has a simple asynchronous task. That means it is used for the parallel processing of any task. We can implement it using @future annotation. While on the other hand, we have a queuable epics. Queuable epics is important for the chainability as well as flexibility of parallel execution. Next is batch epics. Batch epics is has its own separate purpose. It is used for large data processing. Asynchronously, we can process multiple data parallelly into batches. Then we have a schedule epics. Schedule epics execute the time-based execution. We can use the cron expression to schedule the particular operation at specific time or date or frequency, right? Using the schedule epics. Next is, what is the best practices for writing the test class in Salesforce? Basically, there are few best practices that are recommended. First of all, always cover all the possibilities, cover positive as well as negative scenarios, use the test data factory, avoid using see all data, means avoid using see all data equal to true. See all data equal to true will access the orgs data instead of using the factory data or the test data. Always make sure all the testing cases are bulkified, means always test for the bulkification also, bulk operations also. Next is, what are the common deployment issues you have faced in the Salesforce? How did you resolve them? So common issues including the missing field, permission, test failures, profile mismatch. These are resolved using the proper validation, test coverage, and the permission audits. The next is, what is the difference between custom metadata types and custom settings? So this is very important. What is meant by custom metadata? Custom metadata is deployable and version controlled, whereas custom settings are mostly runtime configurations and not ideal for the deployments. This is the difference between custom metadata and custom settings. The last thing is, how do you customize the performance in Apex and Lightning components for the large data volumes? So in Apex, use selective queries, indexes, and async processings. In LWC, use wire caching, pagination, and avoid unnecessary re-renders. So this is the what we can say, the interview question that has been asked in the Deloitte. Now, if you wanted to have the questions as well as answer key, just comment at the bottom of the video. I will share everything in the comment, as well as if you have any doubts in this question, or if you wanted to discuss something, you the comment box is open for that. Just make sure to drop the comment. Thank you so much, and all the best with your Salesforce interview.